You're listening to the Free to Be Mindful podcast, which provides bite-sized tips for busy parents, educators, and anyone working with kids. These real talk conversations focus on mindful living, mental health, and personal growth, helping all to learn, grow, and inspire with mindfulness in mind. I'm your host, Vanessa de Jesus Guzman, educator, licensed professional counselor, entrepreneur, and mom. I'm passionate about helping folks live life with peace of mind and ease of heart while not losing their, well, you know, here we go. Have you ever tried to practice meditation but have no idea if it's working or even if you're doing it right? Wouldn't it be awesome if there was something to let you know when you're in the zone, to let you know to do more of that? Well, there is something that does exactly that. It's called Muse. Muse is a brain sensing headband that helps you find more calm, sharper focus, and better sleep. It does this by measuring your brain waves and lets you know exactly when you're in a meditative state. It's an awesome tool for kids and for adults alike. You can get 15% off any Muse product by clicking the link in the show notes below. Check them out at choosemuse.com. And again, don't forget to use that link for 15% discount at checkout. Hi, and welcome back to the Free to Be Mindful podcast. I hope that you're feeling good, looking good, and doing better in this world than you were yesterday. So we are in November, the 11th of 12 chapters of 2021. It's kind of crazy how time just flies, but also gets kind of blurred all at the same time, depending if we're really living in the moment or not. And if you need more opportunities to live in the moment, you can always join me with Mindfulness with People of Color, where we see you because we are you. I am a co-creator of the movement, and on Saturday, November 20th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are holding a virtual retreat, which is titled Holiday Tune-Up. So think about, as we slowly creep into the holiday season, think about all of the stress that sometimes comes along with not only self-care and taking care of yourself, but also taking care of yourself when you're with extended family and the stressors that brings. So I welcome you to check out the show notes and check out the site to register for this virtual retreat. So last week, if you tuned in, we talked about being authentic. We talked about unmasking our true selves, right? Taking off that mask like we're used to doing after Halloween, and really being ourselves as we go along through our journey in life. And with that concept of authenticity comes along the concept of honesty, because are you being really honest with yourself if you are not being yourself? And are you being authentic with others if you are not always honest with others? So it makes me think of back when I was a second grade teacher, and even dealing with my second grader at home now. We teach our kids to be honest, right? And sometimes they're a little bit too honest. Sometimes they say things that can come across as hurtful when they're just trying to be honest. So when my son says, "Mommy, your butt looks big in those pants," he will say it just like that. He's being honest, but that's something that we learn to filter as adults because we want to make sure that we are not coming across as rude or disrespectful. And just as the show was called, kids do really say the darnest things because they are used to being so honest with other people. And somewhere along childhood, they kind of lose that. And I wonder, do they really lose it on their own? Or do they lose it because we kind of guide them in that direction? Kids are so honest that they tell us everything, including tattling on their classmates. And when I was a second grade teacher, we used to really talk about the difference between reporting and tattling because you don't need to know each and every action that every student is making. And if you have more than one child at home, you can certainly relate to that. But then as they continue to grow, we also tell our kids, well, don't tell so and so that they don't look nice. You can't say that somebody looks ugly. You can't hurt people's feelings. So you have to omit something or soften it up. And when we do that, are we really being authentic? Are we really being our true selves? And that's delicate balance because sometimes we can be our true selves with still trying to protect other people's feelings. But it's certainly a question to reflect upon. And speaking of honesty, it's sometimes when those who are closest to us, when they are very honest, sometimes that's what hurts the most as compared to when maybe a stranger off the street is being honest with us. And that's because we may really value what somebody else has to say. However, we have to understand that while we value someone else's opinion, we can't always expect it to be what we think it's going to be, what we assume it to be, or what we would like it to be in our own minds. When those we love are most honest with us, it can hurt, but do we not want them to be honest? Or do we want them indeed to tell us the truth? And then when they do tell us the truth, that can be really heavy. And what do we do with that information, especially if it's something that can be considered as hurtful? When we think about being authentic and being honest, sometimes it's just not what we say, but it's really how we say it. And that holds so much truth to it. We can be honest with people and we can consider their feelings, but it's all a matter of the delivery in which we express our thoughts and opinions. And that's very important, not only to strangers, but especially to those who we love and care for the most. It seems as though in life, we are extremely unfiltered with those that we care for the most. However, when we do express our thoughts, emotions, opinions, we want to make sure that we are not being mean and that we are not being hurtful, even though the person takes us for who we are. When thinking about sharing comments that are honest, but perhaps are a little bit tougher to swallow, we want to ask ourselves a couple of questions to make sure that we are still being kind, whether it be a stranger or to those we know. So we want to think about, first and foremost, does the person really need to know? Is it kind? Is it absolutely necessary to share this information? And what are your intentions with sharing your comments, thoughts, or opinions? What are you trying to help or change about the person or about a situation which you're speaking on? You also want to consider that your opinions are opinions, but they may not be facts. So, when sharing your opinions about something, we want to be mindful about the way in which we do that, our tone, and our intention. So, all in all, just how we started this conversation, where kids can be a little too honest at times, we want to make sure we take it back to those lessons that we do learn as kids. If you have nothing nice to say, perhaps don't say anything at all. Treat others the way that you want to be treated. And it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Again, not just to those we don't know and to those who challenge us, but especially to those who we love and care for the most. So, with that, really think about the relationships in your life and all you do to nurture those relationships. It is my hope that we take those primary lessons and that we're able to apply them to our everyday life. So, right now, regardless of where you are or what you're doing, take a breath in through your nose and slowly exhale out through your mouth. As you take another breath in, Really focus in, perhaps on the whooshing sound that the breath makes as it goes in through your nose. And you may want to leave your mouth open a little bit as you exhale slowly and fully, and you hear the sounds there as well. These little things are things that we don't usually pay attention to, but that when we do bring awareness to them, we practice mindfulness so that we can then bring awareness to the bigger things in our lives, such as the way that we speak and the way that we interact with others. With that, take this moment to recall a recent interaction, perhaps with a loved one, perhaps with a stranger or a colleague, which was somewhat challenging. Maybe it was challenging because of what you had to share, or maybe it was challenging because of what was shared with you. As you're recalling the situation in your mind, take a moment to think about how you responded to the other person, whether you initiated the conversation or was just responding. And as you recall perhaps statements that you said, faces that you perhaps may have made subconsciously, and maybe the tone and intonation of your voice, take a moment to reflect on, were your words true? Were you honest? Were you helpful in your comments? Were you in any way inspiring in what you had to say? Were your comments absolutely necessary? And finally, were you kind? And at times, depending on the situation, this may be more challenging than other times. And if you find in your reflection that perhaps something was missing in this interaction, or perhaps it was a little bit too much, take a breath in, and as you exhale, let it go. Sometimes things can weigh heavily on our conscience. Sometimes what is said to us can weigh heavily on our heart. But we want to make sure that our minds are where our feet are. And if it's not serving us, we want to let it go. And is that easier said than done? Absolutely. But with practice, we improve. I'll catch you next week. I hope you enjoyed this week's show. It would mean a ton if you took this moment to review the Free to Be Mindful podcast on the platform you catch your favorite shows. That quick and easy act lets me know what you enjoy, and it helps others find the podcast too. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so you can listen along next week. In the meantime, I welcome you to catch me on social media at Counselor V de Jesus. And as always, remember, in a world where you are free to be anything that you want to be, you are always free to be mindful. Catch you next week.